And I had mentioned it before, and you might have seen it on the syllabus. We're going back to the kids now. So we've covered the topics of literacy that we set out to work on this quarter. So we talked about vocabulary, discussion, multiple texts, and writing to learn, right? And then for the last 2 weeks, this week and next week, we're going to go back. I'm going to turn that off for a second. We're going to go back and think about the connection between those topics and people. And we're going to do some strategic work in class this week and next week that will give you a chance to work on the same kinds of tasks that you'll need to do for your final paper. So what we'll be working on is a case of a student. We're going to select either Jacques from I'm Not a Pencil Man, or Miguel, who we read and were with, spent some time with earlier in the quarter. You and people in your groups are going to pick one of those as a kind of case of a student that you will then take a content area standard and a topic and design or introduce or present what you could do using one of our literacy strategies to bring that content to meet the needs of that student. I will explain all this in a minute, but that's why you're sitting in content area groups now. For the first part of class, we're going to talk using a 4A's protocol. I'm going to ask you to talk about Jacques. Since we've talked about Miguel already earlier in the quarter, today is the day when we're going to talk about Jacques and really think about what we learned in I'm Not a Pencil Man. And then after that, then we'll take a little break, and then when we come back, I will let you know how we're going to structure the task. It will start today. You'll do some work on using one of those case studies, like I just said. And then next week, I'll give you about an hour in the beginning of the class to represent what your thinking is. Make like a chart or a poster, and then your peers will get a chance to walk around and look at what the school day might be like for one of those students across content areas if teachers are keeping their literacy practices in mind. Okay? I'm filming this right now for the people that were not able to come at this time of day, so I hope you know. What's that? Yes, it is weird. That's why it's good to get used to it before you do the EdGPA, right? Yeah, it's not that weird to record it, it's much weirder to watch it back. So that I found to be, I did, my dissertation study, I did a series of professional development meetings with teachers and supervisors from the university, and so I filmed probably 8 hours of our meetings, and then I had to analyze my facilitation practices for that. So it was really an exercise in humility. Anyway, hi. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put the 4A's protocol back up. You guys read I'm Not a Pencil Man, I'm assuming. Okay, good. And if you didn't, this next 10 minutes when everyone else is preparing your 4A's answer, I suggest that you also do that and do your best. I'm going to put up the 4A's protocol. Do you remember that was the one with like assumptions, what assumptions are in this piece? What it's going to be right here. What do you want to argue with in the piece? What do you agree with in the piece? And what do you aspire to, or what would you like to take up in your own practice? So, because it is First Thing Monday, and of course everyone prepared your readings way ahead of time, I figured you might need a couple minutes to revisit the piece. So what I'm going to do is ask you to open up I'm Not a Pencil Man. Give this a moment to locate some signal. And once you do that, I'm going to give you almost just over 10 minutes, and I'm going to ask you to take notes for yourself on these 4A's, and then I'll walk you through the structure of the piece again. Don't know why this isn't having a signal. Hi, Laura. Need the signal. Ah, ha, ha, ha. So this is the 4A's protocol, and what you can do is between now and, it's now 9:13, between now and 9:25, I would like you to please go back into the text and just take notes to prepare for your own conversation about assumptions the author holds. These are likely about assumptions about learning inside and outside of school. Bless you. Bless you. What you agree with in the text, what you might want to argue with in the text, and what you aspire to or would like to act upon. Okay? I'll stop you at 25 past. finished writing everything, we're going to transition towards sharing in groups. So, groups should be, are you all one content area here? Two. So I think we don't want less than 3 people in a group. 2 is too few, but not more than 5 and not less than 3 in a group, because otherwise we'll kind of get off kilter time-wise, since we're going to go in rounds here. So at your tables, I just want to go over the process of using this protocol, because I remember last time there was just a bit of confusion with the 4As once you start talking. So the way it works is we go in rounds, right? So it's we're going to do 3 minutes per participant as opposed to 5, which is the way the protocol lists talking, but I don't think you'll need that. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, with people in your group, you're going to do a round. Let's say this middle front table is one. Well, I know you're 2 groups actually. Are you guys? Which way are you broken up? In science. So social science. Okay. So let's say we have this group, and we have Tony, and we have Derek, and we have Otto. So they're going to go first. Let's say Otto will talk for 3 minutes about the assumptions he put down, and if you finish within that 3 minutes, and you don't have anything else to say, you're going to sit awkwardly for the rest of the time. Reason being, sometimes new ideas come up, and otherwise it encourages people to kind of rush through if you know that you don't need to use all of your time. So I want you to use your time. So you speak for that 3 minutes, and then if you're like, gosh, I really have nothing else to say, then you can just gaze into each other's eyes until something comes up for you. That's going to happen. So yeah, so you do one round where you do all the assumptions, and then you go again, and then you share what you might agree with in the text, and then everybody shares what they're going to argue with or disagree with in the text, and then if there are parts they want to aspire or act upon afterwards. It goes in that sequence, rather than having it be that one person starts and shares all 4 of those dimensions. You go around each time. Does that make sense? I'm going to assume that at least one person in each group will have a phone that has a timer on it. Would you please just make sure you select a person and you keep track of time with that? Sharon?
So we have to stay in content groups, because there's only 2 seconds.
Total in here?
Yeah.
Why don't you group up with Caroline? Is there anyone else who's lonely who needs a group? Or is there
I'm hanging
anyone?
out with this group of people in English language.
That's what I'm seeing. You're already like established. Jessica, where would you be? We need you in a group too. You should come up here, but then you 2 are just you 2.
Why don't you find one for language?
That's what I was thinking of, another group of 2. Is that cool? Okay, and then Vanessa and Laura, you're going to want to sit with content groups as well, okay? So go join them. So you 4 can share, obviously, your cross-content area, but that's okay, because we're talking about Jacques anyway. And then once you kind of finish all that, if you're finished and you're in a smaller group, like groups of 3 will finish before groups of 4 or 5 because of the timing of it. Smaller groups can then just talk about what are the implications for teaching and learning, given what you talked about with the other 4As. Does that make sense? Are there other questions about the task? Okay, so we'll get started in a second. I'll ask you to work on this. This will take us a little while, probably about a half an hour. And then after that, I'll give you a little bit of break, and Caroline, when we come back from break, when I give you the task, you're going to work on the second half of the class, then we'll talk about your final assignment then as well, because it's linked up with that. Okay, ready? Go! Would you be, okay?
I'm not interested in that, sorry.
It's totally fine. You don't have to be. I'll put this on pause. I might just put it,